Hi, welcome to Shaman Sister Sessions, episode 142, Shamanic Allies and Spirit Guides in Your Healing Practice. I'm Katherine Bird. I'm here with my shaman sister, Michelle Hawk. Hi, Michelle.
Hi.
And we're excited to talk a bit today about different kinds of guides and like how do you even start to incorporate these kinds of guides into your work? Maybe you're doing something that you might not even consider shamanic work at this point. Maybe you're doing energy work or body work or therapeutic work, ceremonial work of some kind, and you're curious, how does this work? What's the technology of it? What's the process that you go through? And why is this important? How you doing, Michelle?
I am pretty great. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I've been moving and painting, and I finally feel a little bit more settled. So I had my first in-person client a couple of days ago here in my new healing space, which I had been furiously, feverishly working on, like almost to the moment that she got here, it seemed.
Mm.
But it all came together, and I'm really proud of this space, and it feels really good. So I'm excited to be welcoming people into my healing practice in person.
Awesome. It looks so great. The pictures that you sent me look amazing. So, y'all, if you are interested in an in-person intensive with Kat, go check out her space. Go have some deep care in Santa Fe. And same goes if you want to come out to Pacific Northwest and do work with me. Although my house is not freshly painted, it still looks great.
It still
But
looks
yeah,
good.
the
But I have
bathroom, like the pictures of the bathroom that you sent me are just so gorgeous and opulent. I'm like, I would love to take a bath in that bathroom.
I also have, as kind of a guardian of the space, on one of the walls, I have a painting that I made of Michelle and her dragon spirits, and a wing there that I use, and also a larger dragon painting on the same wall. So
Amazing.
you're watching over me with
Aw,
work.
I'm so if you go to Santa Fe, you get both of us, and I'm there generically.
Yeah,
Oh, I love
that's
it.
how
Yeah,
that's how it works.
great.
Um,
Okay.
so Michelle, let's talk a little bit about why people might be interested in developing shamanic allies and spirit guides for their work. And when we say work, we're also like, yes, you might be a facilitator of healing work, but you also might just be working on yourself and with yourself in your own personal practice. So whenever we're talking about shamanic work, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're out there working with other people. Hopefully, you're working with yourself first and foremost and continuously. So, why is this important to you, Michelle?
Oh my gosh, so many reasons. Yeah, this is for the personal and professional, whether or not you're hanging out your shingle as a healer or shamanic practitioner. The A lot of people ask, who are my spirit guides, or who am I working with? This is a very common question, or people really are hungry to know. And I like to, first and foremost, approach this in a very non-dogmatic way. Just as, for example, in your life, you have many friends, and you have friends who, some friends are in your life for your entire life or for decades, very long periods of time. Some friends come in that you're like, oh, these are the friends that I go kayaking with, or these are the friends that I do this particular activity with. There's kind of a niche of that. Or some friends come in like during a particular period of life. And the same can be true of our spirit allies. We can have spirit allies who are present with us for our entire lives, our entire practice. Spirit allies or shamanic allies or spirit guides who are present with us for particular purposes or particular flavors or kinds of work, or guides or spirit allies who are here with us during particular periods or initiation portals or phases of our spiritual development. So it's very important to hold it lightly. And I think I see a tendency, particularly in people, and myself included, when I was newer on the path, my very first guide who I received that came to me in a very obvious way, I clung very tightly to that guide. And she helped me so deeply and so profoundly during that period of time in my life. And now I see much less of her. I know she's still there, but she's much more in the background because I'm a different person and my energetic needs and my energetic process is very different. That's my
Hmm.
invitation to people of know that throughout your life and throughout your practice, you'll have many different guides. And part of the journey of being present with that is curiosity and getting to know them and getting to know what is their expertise, what are they really great at, how are they here to support you, and what is their zone of genius so you can invite them in the most aligned possible way.
Yeah, that's really important because one of the things that we want to talk about is how that these different guides have different reasons that you're calling on them, which is why your personal practice is so important. But there's a couple of things you said. Number one, that people want to know who their guides are. And a lot of times people will go to a practitioner and want the practitioner basically to tell them, tell me who my guides are, or tell me what you see and who's around me and who my guides are. But what I think is, the best way to engage with this is to be on your own personal path of discovery and development of who your guides are. And you might not experience them in the way that you think that you should. They might not just show up we kind of think that they're going to just show up as like a hologram of a fully, like a human form, and they're going to tell you what to do in the exact where you can hear it with your ears. There's a lot of subtlety, there's a lot of nuance to this kind of work. And so, yes, you can, I think is important to say. Yes, you can develop these relationships, even if you don't feel like, oh, I'm the most psychic person, or I really see things easily, or you develop these awareness. And a lot of it is around the awareness that you are like, oh, this something is coming in, and now I'm learning and discovering and growing. And there's different ways that we can engage with these guides, and let's talk more about that. But there is that piece, like, we want people to prescribe the guides, but it is really up to us to be on the journey to connect with those guides. And even if somebody tells you this is your guide, it is then up to you to explore the truth of that and the relationship of that
Mm-hmm.
and what that means to you.
Totally. That's so important. And I'm a yes and person with this. And because generally I don't like to tell people, oh, this is who I'm seeing for you, unless it's like slapping me in the face during a session. I'm like, hey, this is a guide who's coming through. But I remember very vividly, actually, not all that long ago, several months ago, I was offering a shamanic journey work session for a friend, and I had a guide come through, and I asked, I was like, "Really? Are you sure? Okay." And so I presented the guide to her, and she was like, I don't know about that. Like, really, I don't have a connection to that kind of energy, or immediately just telling her she sort of wasn't really aligned. But then I told her the transmission of that guide and the energy that that guide was offering, and her words changed completely. She said, "Oh, I definitely need that medicine. Oh, that's very aligned." And then she went from there to do her own exploration and examination with it and came back to tell me later how aligned it was and how profound that was. So it's definitely, Kat, I love that you said that of don't just take for granted that it's somebody saying, "Oh, I see this for you." Really like run it through your own discernment, get to know that guide, receive that transmission personally, and see if yes, that feels aligned, or maybe no, it doesn't. And the same is true of guides that maybe you discover through your connection of, oh, I have this really strong connection with this guide. 2 years later, do you still have that strong connection? Are they still helping you in the same way? Or does it feel like that guide is now a little more in the background because you have this new energy that you're working with and a new guide to support you in that?
Yeah, totally. And I love what this story that you're telling, because sometimes something will show up and you might initially reject it because you have an idea about it. You have a preconceived idea about what it means, what the medicine is, what the message is, or that, oh, that's not for me. Maybe you have a guide from another spiritual lineage or tradition. Maybe you are very uncomfortable with a certain religion, and then a guide from that religion shows up, and you're like, oh no, not interested in that. Maybe you have a guide who shows up in a way that isn't beautiful, like might appear as something that is uh like a creature or a being that doesn't feel like, oh, that's so angelic. And so that feels like a safe guide because it's an angel, but it shows up as something that you at first are like, okay, all right, it's okay not to know, and it's okay to be uncomfortable in your experience.
I want to point out for those of you who are watching on video, look at who's sitting right behind Kat because she has this your vulture painting,
Oh,
right?
Mulder.
So speaking of beautiful guides, Kat has this gorgeous vulture who is part of her guide team in shamanic practice. And vulture is medicine that traditionally people either kind of reject or push away or aren't necessarily comfortable with because it's not cute. It's not what we think of as like beautiful, shiny, pretty, but it is so shamanic. Vulture is deeply powerful shamanic medicine of working with death and the cycle of life and composting energy. So I love that you said that, and you have vulture sitting right there. If you're not watching on video, she has this very beautiful
I'm a
vulture
Mulder
painting.
that I
Yeah,
painted.
yeah.
Um, and and it has taken me, like I've worked with this guide for so many years, and there's still things that I'm learning.
Hmm.
It took me a long time to realize that some of the work that I'm really good at naturally in doing extractive work and energy clearing work, that I didn't realize how much this vulture was supporting that work and guiding that work and tending to me and tending to my clients inside of that work. And so, this stuff is about becoming, some of it is about actually just becoming more aware because you have guides that are there that are kind of knocking on your door. And it's like, do you choose to open the door or not?
Hmm.
And that's a little bit of what like is exciting about shamanic practice is that we are constantly choosing to open the door to the unknown.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's a lot of immediacy,
Yeah.
right? Like
Okay.
being very present with our gifts that I think also shamanic work in general has this like requires a lot of humility and curiosity to
Mm-hmm.
participate in it effectively. And same with the relationships with our guides, like developing collaborative allyships with spiritual forces is a deeply humbling process.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something I teach in my shamanic work, both to my mentorship clients and then also within some of my shamanic courses, about the difference between an ally and an initiated partnership relationship with a shamanic guide or a spiritual force, and those impact our energy field differently. So just know that there's different degrees of how we collaborate with these spiritual forces, how close they are in our field, how much they're integrated into the aspect of our being. And that I feel like that's a whole other podcast episode
That
right
is
there.
a whole other podcast because I
Yeah.
want to talk some more about that and about, what's the difference between, well, like I just have this guide and then I have actually gone through the initiations and I'm in a deep relationship with this guide.
Yeah. Maybe let's bookmark that. That's a whole
Okay,
other thing.
write
Okay,
that
great. Anyway, but right. So obviously there's so much more depth in this. And here we're talking about shamanic allies and spirit guides for different kinds of work in your healing practice. Now, just as, we talked about vulture having this particular kind of medicine, this particular kind of expertise, there are different guides who have different wisdoms and who come in different parts of your healing work. So, for example, there's Owl is a very strong guide for me who comes in almost every single session where there's a shadow element. for my clients and helping illuminate and see very clearly in their own darkness to help bring courage and help bring a lot of softness. Like owl energy shows up in my work as very soft and very soft, but like very clear. It's
Mm,
both soft and sharp at the same time. I'm not really sure how that works, but it is, and it really holds people in the security to be able to see in their own darkness and to bring a lot of peace and relief to that process and safety to that process.
mm, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's helpful to just, like you said at the beginning, you have friends that you do these things with, and friends that you do these things with, and that these different guides have these different frequencies, they have different kinds of specialties and medicines that they bring for different reasons. And the more that you do your work, the more that you will meet them and understand them and be like, oh, here you are again. And this is similar. This is a similar thing. And the more that you start to see in some ways your own frequency and resonance and way of being transform and change. And that through working with these different guides, you actually are able to take on some parts of them, some aspects of, I think, like you're saying, both the sharpness and the nurturing, the like being able to see the shadow and being able to like hold a soft space for that shadow. That is something that I think that a lot of people wonder, well, how do you do that? Right? Or how do you protect yourself? Or how do you extract energy? Or how do you do these things? And some of the best teachers are going to be your guides, and they're going to teach you not only how to do something, but in a way how to be something.
Mm, I love what you just said. For sure. Right. Yeah, because it's really when these guides are working through us, we have to remember like it's not just like someone else coming in to do the thing. When we're in these collaborative spiritual relationships with forces, they come to offer this through us. So it's not just about um like I guess it does feel different of like, oh, I'm following directions versus I'm anchoring in this frequency through the core of my being and offering myself as the channel, as the medium for this spiritual force to work through me for on behalf of this person, on behalf of myself, on behalf of the earth, whatever you're doing this work for. And it really is, and this is mediumship practice. We're talking about mediumship here, by the way, and we have a lot of episodes about mediumship. So in case that wasn't clear, go back and also tune into all the many episodes we have about mediumship, about animal guides, spirit guides. We have a lot of like related episodes. But really, when we're working with mediumship, it's how are we allowing ourselves to hold this energy and give it a place to live in the earth plane through our incarnate experience, through the presence and the energy and the temple of our work at the altar, in the altar of our hearts or in the altar of our work. How are we inviting in this spiritual force with its gifts and its medicine and its intelligence to come through us to offer that technology? Kat, you use that word at the very beginning of our episode, like the spiritual technology of healing work. And this is an element of the technology of mediumship.
Yeah, and I think that again, like just points the finger again at the humility aspect of this. And sometimes we get distracted by the excitement or the sensational, it's like, oh my gosh, it's such a big deal. And yeah, it can be a big deal and it feels like a big deal. And it's like, oh wow, that's a lot of energy. That feels very powerful. And also there is that practice of being in the humility of what you're actually doing and what you're really holding space for. I think is so important, like you said at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So
Beautiful.
let's talk a little bit about the technology, about some of these ways that we are developing these relationships or maybe if we're working ourselves or in session or whatever, like how are we working with the nuts and bolts of this functionally.
Mm-hmm. Well, nuts and bolts, I think, first and foremost is developing a relationship to get to know the expertise of that particular guide or spiritual ally. Because if you, just like you would, I'm going to use my same example of like you have the friend you go kayaking with. So as you're getting to know somebody, you have conversation. Oh, what are you into? What do you like to do? What are you really, excited about? So then the friend who loves kayaking and hiking, you may not be in, or you could invite them, but it may not be their favorite thing to do to come over and like jam on music for 6 hours. They might be a different thing. They're like, yeah, I'll come hang out with you, but then they're like getting bored or not really fully participating. So with our guides, being in a lot of curiosity about, well, what is your medicine? What is your expertise? And this comes through, I'll say this comes through like the personal practice aspect of it. This isn't, while there may be things that you discover in session, like I've definitely had discoveries in session where a guide comes through and does something and I say, oh, I didn't know you did that because that had never come up before. But ideally, you're doing a lot of that prior to in your personal practice and relationship development with that guide. You can get to know them. You can ask them these questions. You can ask to feel the frequency of their medicine in your own body and your energy field so that you're experiencing how they may offer that through you to a client or to a ceremony situation. You can be in a consistent devotional practice with them. So, so spend a period of time, make an altar to them so that you're anchoring their energies into the physical plane. Spend a period of time making offerings every day for a month, for example, or longer, and make prayers to them and see how that energy engagement continues to expand in your consciousness and instruct you as to their medicine. That's a
Mhm.
very, very important initial step in then developing that relationship. So then there's knowledge and trust and familiarity when you're then applying that in the context of a healing session or a ceremony or something else.
Yeah. One of the ways that I engage in that devotional practice is by working with art and making a painting and working with prayer, sometimes mantra, if that's applicable, imagery, symbology, color, like all of these pieces to support working with this being. And at the same time, I'm working with them in my practice and in my, in my regular life and speaking to them and welcoming them into my dream space is another place where you can work with your guide, where you can ask for them to come to you and to work with you and in your dreams and to get to know you in that space. And that's one of the main things, like we over and over, it's so fascinating to me how often people's minds are blown by the fact that they can ask.
Yeah.
Just like make a request,
Mm-hmm.
just say, hey, I want to know my guides. And hey, I'm really excited about this, and this is important, and this is why it's important, and this is what I want to do this for. And
Mm-hmm.
now that maybe I've become aware that there's a guide, I'm going to spend time with you and ask you, what are you here for? What are you about? What do you like to do? How are we to work together? What kind of problems can we solve together? Like all of those things that are just these really simple questions, like you said, it's kind of reminding me of I was on social media and there some woman was like, "What's happened to these men? They don't even know how to ask a question anymore."
Right.
Like on the dating apps, like you're not even curious about me. Like, and you can think of it in the same way, like you're swiping around and like this guy just shows up and you're like, hey. You're
Uh-huh.
like you're not like, hi, you really seem so interesting and I'd really like to get to know you and what do you like to do for fun and what's important to
Yeah.
you and what could we do together? You're just like, hey, what's up?
Okay. All right. Okay. So the skill of curiosity and the skill of um, of like inviting deeper intimacy and connection can translate beyond the dating apps into our relationship with our shamanic allies. Yes,
Right.
definitely.
But it's
Um,
similar. It's a little bit of a similar thing.
yeah, I mean, I don't think it's unique to guys. I know some women who are like that too, and it's like, okay, the art of conversation or the art of like curiosity, which and this is also a different podcast episode of like where that comes from is like the capacity for empathy and like the ability to imagine or be curious or understand that somebody else either has a different life experience or has a different perspective than you, right? Other if you don't have that, you're not going to be curious.
Right. It's
Yeah.
not all about you, actually.
Right. In fact, most of it all is not about us at all. And same with our guides. Like I think it's also another thing I really want to clue people into is we cannot assume that our guides have either the experience or the same set of values or perspective that we have as embodied Gaian humans here in this space and time. And I tell you this as a hard earned lesson in making that assumption about the information I was receiving from my spirit team and having that relationship or having something happen that I don't need to go into, but then investigating as to why that happened and then asking deeper into the perspective and the value system and the orientation of the guides who were offering that advice and realizing they were attuning to a completely different intelligence that had never occurred to me. So
Hmm.
now having like, don't take for granted that your guides know what it's like to live on Earth, know what it's like to live in a body, know what it's like to have any set of the personal experience that you have here that is framing where you're asking questions from or framing the work that you're doing. That is a really fundamentally important piece that honestly doesn't occur to a lot of people.
Right. And also, like, be willing, you're having a conversation.
Mhm.
So be willing to say, hey, please, please bring into your awareness that I am a human living in this physical body and I have these needs, I have these expectations that are, put on to me by life that I need these certain things. And so, um, does this advice actually support this? What I'm going for, right? Like, because it's like, well, what are you going for? And sometimes what all we say is maybe something that's very kind of meta, like, I'm here for the evolution of consciousness of humanity and to heal, blah, blah, blah. And that may or may not be a tricky road of
Mhm.
experience as your little human self if you get, wrapped up in it. And, that's definitely my own. I've definitely had that experience as well, where it's like, oh, okay, so you're ready to take the fastest path where we kick your ass the hardest? Good luck.
Right. Right. Yeah. Specifying like also pleased to offer these wisdoms and support in a way that is most compatible and gentle and beneficial with my incarnate lived experience as a human in the here and now to support my
And for my
needs.
client.
Yeah,
Right. And
exactly.
for my client, because I can't tell you how many people that I've seen as clients who've come to me after they've gone to a practitioner who just blew them out, right? And they're like, well, they were very spiritually and energetically powerful, but I couldn't integrate
Right,
what they were offering. I couldn't, like my system, my physical body, energy body couldn't actually process what occurred in that session.
right,
Which, if you can't integrate and process something, it doesn't have a huge value just because it's big.
right. Yeah, powerful does not equate useful.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah,
And on that same token, you might feel a guide that comes in and not think that they are powerful enough because they're little or there's just that's too simple. That's too plain somehow. And I think especially when we get animals and we get an animal and we're like, oh, it's not really,
Uh,
it's not the one I wanted. I wanted
uh,
a lion. I wanted a bear. And you're
right.
like, no, you got a beetle.
Hmm.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
Okay, great. You got a
Yep.
clam. Like, who wants a clam?
A clam. That's cute.
It is cute, right? And
Uh,
the clam has this amazing, beautiful medicine that
hmm.
you might not ever receive if you discount its
Right.
potential and its power coming in and why it's coming in. So that's also really important.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. Wonderful.
and and also we have this ability to shamanically connect to so many things. Like a lot of times we're thinking like a spirit guide, which might be maybe a healer or a shaman or master of some kind that is in the other realm. But even elemental forces are really important to understand your work with those, with your work with fire and water and air and earth, with places, with mountains and rivers and trees. And all of those, I think, are fundamental, foundational, extremely important, especially when you're doing any kind of healing work, to have a grasp on those. Uh, I think sometimes it's more important in a lot of ways that
Yeah.
you have a really firm awareness of what you can call in and why you're calling it in.
Yeah, absolutely. Or to understand like a way in which you're being held that perhaps you were not aware of or you're continuing to develop awareness of. For example, the land where I live, I received a song from the land where I live about a year and a half ago, over a year and a half ago. And it's a very beautiful ceremonial healing song that just made me glow up when I was hearing it. And it was such a powerful experience of receiving this song. I am still almost 2 years later receiving epiphanies encoded in that song. Like I actually just had another one come in this morning from being in this continuous meditation with that song that was given to me by the land where I live and about the intelligence of the land where I live and the work that this land is here to do and completely independently of me, like in collaboration with me, but also beyond me. Like this, the purpose of this land exists beyond me, just as the purpose of our guides exists beyond us. And I think this is another really important piece. The intelligences of the forces that we are working with are beyond us. And so when we are connecting with them, attuning to, we're learning about, well, what is your medicine? What is your purpose? What is your desire? What is the desire of these spiritual forces and why are they choosing to come work through you? Yes, of course, it's in service to your own healing and growth and development and how you're supporting your clients, but it is also an answer to their purpose. And so, what is it inviting of you, and how are you participating and collaborating with this very powerful, great working in a unified field with these powerful spiritual forces?
Oh, I love that, Michelle. I love this idea. Like what if you are the answered prayer of the fire? What if you are the answered prayer of the wind? What if
Yeah.
you are the answered prayer of the angels? And they have been, waiting for you
Yeah.
to open, to be present, to listen, and to be in this collaboration and relationship, and we talk about the reciprocation, the reciprocal relationship where we are offering and we are receiving. And it's not just all about receiving. And that is so important on this path that we are always remembering that first and foremost, we are offering, we are giving, we are considering, we are uh, making our offerings and the offerings as a spiritual food and also as reminder that we offer ourselves to our relationships.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah.
So we have so much more to say,
Mhm.
obviously, and teach about this, but let's hold that for later. I know, Michelle, you have some shamanic training coming up.
I
What are you up to?
do. What am I up to? I am offering a Foundations of Shamanism course that is beginning sometime this fall. I haven't picked the dates yet, although maybe by the time this episode comes out, they will be released. So stay tuned for that. This course is a combination of various courses that I have taught before to provide a really beautiful container of both some theory and some practice of foundations of animism, working with local land and nature spirits, making offerings, being in commune. So a lot of what we're talking about how to collaborate and communicate with spirit allies, as well as personal energetic mastery and the foundational skills that we need to develop a healthy and effective mediumship practice and energy healing practice. So you can stay tuned for more info on that course, or go check out my website and see if it's up on there yet, or get on my email list to make sure that you get first notice when it comes out.
Great.
michellehawk.com.
Wonderful.
Mm.
I have a class. It's a 4 session, 4 Saturdays recorded, portaling, which is shamanic allies and energetic mastery for doing healing work and working with exactly what we're talking about, shamanic allies, doing cleansing and purification for yourself, learning how to work with a portal and uh, discovering any kind of faulty energetic processing that you might have, and then how to transform that into something healthier. We're going to do some shamanic journey work. It's going to be really fun and it's going to have a lot in it in 4 classes. That starts September 27th. And then also the Healer's Process Practice Manual, which is 50 practices that go along with the Healer's Process, is available September 20th in paperback, but it's available in Kindle for pre-order right now.
Mm.
And it also will have a lot of practices, especially working with elements, working with guides. There's a lot of things in there too that will help you with this work.
And if you don't have the healer's practice, or excuse me, healer's process book yet, then get the actual book to go with the practice manual, because it is quite a potent combination, chock full of practical wisdom as well as beautiful poetry and healer wisdom. Yeah.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you, Kat. And hey, for all of you tuning in, if you know of someone who needs to hear this, please send along the episode. Please like and subscribe, and help leave us a review. I think you can leave us
Our
reviews on
reviews are really
iTunes.
helpful. Yeah.
That's super helpful. Yeah. And I think right now we're ranked in the top 5 shamanism podcasts. I'm not sure according to who, but we're on a
We're on a
couple.
couple of different lists. One of them we're number two. One of them I think we're number five. So
Mhm.
yay, we're amazing, according to
Amazing.
someone.
Well, and I mean, it's we're doing this for you. We're doing this to you all. We're doing this to help you. And of course, I love hanging out with Kat and talking and nerding out on all these things. And also, like, we're doing this for you all. So thank you for tuning in and listening. And please help us continue to amplify this so that more people who are needing support as they're going through awakening processes or healing journeys can receive support and know that they are not alone. That is why we're doing this.
Thanks, Michelle. Bye.
Bye.